Welcome, dear learners. In the last lesson, we talked about spiritual ecology, 10 practices to reawaken the sacred in everyday life by Llewellyn Waughnley. Let's look at it again and see how it is useful to us in every day, how useful it is in helping us connect with the sacred. Spiritual Ecology, 10 Practices to Reawaken the Sacred in Everyday Life. This book has some daily exercises which are meant to help us reconnect with the sacred. They are seemingly simple everyday rituals that we partake in our lives on a day-to-day basis, but they can be powerful mediums in transforming our relationship with the earth, such as prayer, walking, gardening, cooking with love. So these are some of the activities that happen on a day-to-day basis. And this book simply asked us to be aware of the sacred in nature and act according to it. So it's in this sense, if we are cooking and we cook with love, that is, we focus on what we are doing, we are mindful about what we are doing, we are mindful of the ingredients that we are putting in the food, we are mindful of where they are coming from, how they are reaching us. These things are an example of becoming aware and doing things in a connected manner. Just one example of this, in the first section on walking, he writes, "This is another time of silent meditation, walking, breathing, feeling the earth." So he writes about his early morning walk, and it is just not a walk that is ignorant and blind and unattentive to nature. Rather, there is deep breathing involved, there's a sense of feeling, there's a sense of waking to everything around. So he emphasizes on prayer, meditation, presence, and awareness while walking. So it would be the same with the other activities suggested in this book. Now let us go to the book Spiritual Ecology, The Cry of the Earth, which was mentioned earlier. And if we go back to the previous lessons, there was an interview with Llewellyn Waughnley, the author of this collection, the editor of this collection, and he's an author of a few articles also in it. So let us go to some of the essays that are of prime importance when we talk about spiritual ecology. As we have already discussed, spiritual ecology is a movement to return the sacred in the relationship between humans and the earth. The topics covered in this book are relevant to the crisis that the world is facing today. It consists of essays by spiritual teachers from around the world, from a variety of cultures and religions. Various facets of human life which are touched by climate change have been explored in them. This book is like a rainbow. It shows us so many different facets of human life, and we see that all the facets are touched by climate change. The gravity and the depth of the essays as they call for change and action in order to combat climate change is very marked. So the first essay is by Satish Kumar, titled Soil, Soul and Society. In this essay, Satish Kumar writes about how soil, soul and society form a holy trinity. And we know the trinity is a religious term from Hinduism as well as from Christianity. In totality, the three make a harmonious unity. The soil is important for survival on the earth, and when one loses touch with the soil, there is a profound loss. So, there are so many articles and so many research papers, so many news items in newspapers today that children should be allowed to play in the mud. Children should be exposed to the environment, and they should not be kept cooped up in environments which are very sanitized and where there are ACs, because the environment is something that is there in our blood, and the soil is something that builds immunity in the children. Children who have never touched an animal in their lives, who have never seen a dog come close to them, have never touched a dog in their lives, they grow up to be very allergic to all these dog hair or cat fur or dust. So, when children are removed from the soil, when they are brought up in artificial environments, then that paves the way for poor health. So, one finds a profound loss when one is disconnected with the soil, and this loss is not only in physical diseases but in mental ailments too. We find that there is a peace and a sense of contentment in those who live close to the land, in those who live a simple life, which is not there in people who have tons of money and who do not have time for the outdoors. So, everything comes from the soil, whether it is food or whether it is other basic needs. All our life is dependent on the soil. We are grounded in the soil. We live by it, we live in it, and we go back to it. So, the soil is so important. Soil is not dirt, it is the basis of our existence. So, this essay is meant to transform our attitude towards the earth and to look at the relationship between humans and the earth as a trinity of soil, soul, and society. So, the soul is the second in the trinity. It refers to the soul of humans and the soul of the universe, which are one. And when there is a fracture or a rift, when there's an alienation between the human soul and the soul of the universe, the alienation, of course, is illusory. It is not real because we will always be part of that universe, but it creates complications and it creates problems. The ego takes over and the materialism takes over. So, caring for the soul means self-realization and understanding the deeper values of life. So, caring for the soul after the soil is connecting to one's inner self, and in that connection, finding the connection to the universe. When that connection is missing, then there is a sense of seeking, a sense of empty desires which never get fulfilled. A life overrun by consumerism and materialism is not a life of the soul because it shuts the soul forever. So, for the mind and the soul and the body to function in perfect harmony, the connection of nature is very essential. And so, the soul is the second in the trinity. Society is the third in this trinity. It refers to considering oneself a part of the society of the world and the universe. So, when one connects with others, then one develops feelings, love, and compassion. So, love and forgiveness unite everyone in society. So, these three elements, soil, soul, and society, are very crucial for realizing the beauty and the harmony of the relationship between human beings and the earth. Society is equivalent to the mind that represents cultural values. So, therefore, soil, soul, and society are like body, spirit, and mind and need to exist in harmony. And we know that when this harmony is disturbed, when there is something that overpowers this trinity, then there is chaos, and thus the climate impact is one of the signs of this disturbance. So let us look at this video related to the essay by Satish Kumar. So let us go to the next essay, The Bells of Mindfulness by Thich Nhat Hanh, who was the Zen Buddhist monk who has talked about eco-spirituality and one's connection with one's inner self. He has talked about mindfulness. The Bells of Mindfulness is a title which has a double meaning. The bells are a wake-up call to see the mess that we have created on the planet. The mindfulness is that they suggest it is a term from Zen Buddhism, which suggests being alive to the moment. So, according to Zen Buddhism, mindfulness is to focus on what is doing in the present, to be present in the present, whether one is praying or one is cooking or one is gardening, to be present in the present moment. When one is gardening, one should only be gardening. When one is praying, one should only be praying. And this state of mindfulness and alertness and this develops the power of the mind, and it strengthens one's soul. So this mindfulness is to pay attention to the climate crisis, and the bells are therefore calling for contemplation and action, to think about what is happening in the world today, and they are a call to action and to do something about it. The essay stresses on the urgency to take action by changing one's attitude. So, if one's attitude is that nature is meant to be plundered and used, that the only role of nature in our lives is that we should get maximum comfort from it. Nature is meant to supply us crops and our daily food, or nature is meant to supply wood to us or help build our houses. That view is very limited. We have to think again about that. We have to change our attitude. We must think that the nature is sacred and what we get from it are gifts, and we have to value those gifts, and we must do something in return for getting those gifts. We should not take what we get for granted. We must understand that life and the universe has a pattern. There are various ecosystems. So if we take something, we must not take advantage. We must try to give back. If we take fruit from trees, we must give back in trying to nurture them instead of cutting them down. If we get the comfort of grass, we must try to water it and help to protect it. So this kind of thing, in which this state of mind in which we do not let our selfishness and our ego take over. Rather, we think that we are here as guests or hosts, and what we are getting is a gift. It's not granted and it's not going to last forever. So this kind of attitude, when we think of the fossil fuels that we are using in day-to-day life, we have to think that these things are not going to last forever until and unless we act responsibly. And we give things a fair dealing. So it's time to give up carelessness and recklessness now if we want to save the future for our children and our grandchildren. There is a need for a collective awakening to the way the earth is being damaged and destroyed. So, the bells of mindfulness are calling us to waken up and see that the damage so far that has been done may lead to worse consequences in the future, and we need to take steps to mitigate all that damage. So, there are small things in our lives that we can do, and it can be done collectively, like the processed food that we eat in packets, in plastic packets. Is it not possible that we boycott all that and we only decide to eat fresh? We try to limit consumption of those packaged foods. So we will be doing two things. We will be discouraging the industry that sort of cashes in on our desires for this food, and we will save the land from the plastics that they come in. So it is our need and our greed and our desires that help the industry or the market to work. If we change our attitude and our desires, it is sure going to bring some respite to the earth, which is clogged with plastics and things that are non-biodegradable. So there is a collective call. There is a collective call from the earth for awakening. And he mentions, Thich Nhat Hanh mentions a very important word, that is the American dream. Many of us must be familiar with this. The American dream. The American dream is the dream of affluence and a thick pay packet and a comfortable life, and it's the idea of careers is based on this. If your career is something in which you're going to get a good pay packet and you're going to be able to work with a multinational company, that is a successful career. So this is with disregard to what all these careers might do to the earth. Speaks about the futility of this American dream thus. Everyone has to have a car, a bank account, a cell phone, a television set of their own. In 25 years, the population of China will be 1.5 billion people. And if each of them wants to drive their own car, China will need 99 million barrels of oil every day. So, the American dream is not possible for India, China, or Vietnam. And needing 99 million barrels of oil every day. And think of it, the production of oil today is only 84 million barrels of oil per day. So it's not possible at least to fulfill this dream in India, China, or Vietnam. But the American dream is no longer even possible for the Americans. So it is an empty concept to only think of affluence, comforts, and commercial expansion. Thich Nhat Hanh sees the possibility of another dream in the place of this one, which would heal and restore the earth. It is a dream of unity, of living in brotherhood and sisterhood, a dream of living in peace with each other. He says that if we are determined and strong, we can have the power to decide the destiny of the planet. So, if we just think of current times, the voice of the youth has been very vociferous and very strong. So, a child, a young teenager like Greta Thunberg has started a whole movement of climate activism. So it is because of focus, mindfulness, determination and staying strong that can give us the power to decide the destiny of the planet. And it is invested in us to make a decision, because the young among us will be the ones who will see the future of the planet. So the best thing is to secure that future so that it is not a misery, damaged, uh, destroyed future. The next essay is Annadana, the gift of food, by Vandana Shiva. Vandana Shiva is a climate change activist and part of many movements, and she has written some books too. And she talks about the importance of food. She goes first to the religious importance of giving food. It's called Annadan, and it is supposed to be a sacred duty, a privilege, a sacred obligation. It is mentioned in religious texts of other religions too, whether we talk about Sikhism or we talk about Islam. The idea of giving charity, the idea of giving food is very important. So the very vibrant Sikh communities that open langars to feed people is a very good example of this, that food is a gift, and there is a sacred bond between nature and the one who receives the food. She describes the sacredness of food thus: not only is food sacred, not only is it living, but it is the creator itself. And that is why, even in the poorest of Indian huts, you find a little earthen chula or stove being worshipped. The first piece of chapati is set out for the cow, the next piece for the dog. Then you find out who else is hungry. So, this is very interesting, this idea of giving food. It is that food is something that sustains us, but food also, when we give it, it sort of elevates our soul. It uh, it supplies us with love and a sense of charity and a sense of evolvement. So food is a great creator. Everything is formed through this food. So when we think of food, uh, we think of these Sikh langars also, but we also think of the Sufi tombs where food is distributed freely to whoever visits those places. And food is such a thing that when it is distributed, it just has a power to pull more and more people to it. And so it seems that there's a never ending cycle of support where there is food that is given from the heart. So it is interesting that the mazar of Nizamuddin Chishti and such mazars also, food is something that is given freely, and the giver becomes spiritually elevated. So it reminds me of an anecdote about Hazrat Chishti, and how he would always, there was food on the tables for whoever visited his place, his khanka. So once it happened that one person came and he said that I do not want to eat this ordinary food. I want to eat what you eat. So he said, Hazrat Chishti said that you will not be able to eat the food that I eat. So the man said that no, I will eat that and not what is given here. And then Hazrat Chishti put the bowl before him. It was a bowl of vegetables made with thorny leaves. So his soul had evolved through giving of this food, that even that he was grateful for, even that thorny food, and this knowledge had to be conveyed to this person. So she also says that the artificial systems or networks through which food comes nowadays, they ignore the role of the giver and the farmer and even the microbes and the earthworms and the other beings that help. So that food is neither healthy nor is it sustaining. So she supports sustainable food and sustainable eating. So I'll stop here. This lesson is over. I hope you got a good idea of some of the texts that we discussed. We will meet in the next lesson. Thank you.